Hey everybody, how's everybody doing? I wanted to talk a little bit about this phenomenon that I've been noticing and talking about quite often, and it's the fact that most vegans are also atheists. Not all, but the overwhelming majority. And I don't have a problem with what you believe in. If your faith is atheism, I have no problem with that. The problem with atheists is that they attack other faiths. They're very aggressive. They tend to be very disrespectful. And then they just cry foul, play a victim when they're the ones attacking other faiths. Like, have some self-awareness, right? And they always lose debates. I mean, they get every single debate that I've seen, that wasn't between, an intelligent atheist and some low-hanging fruit, but every single debate that I've seen, all the atheists always get creamed. So, y'all need to back off. So, I've drawn this parallel between the incoherence of vegans and the incoherence of atheism. I guess if you're susceptible to succumb to incoherent worldviews, well, that's just what you do. Now, I know some atheists that listen to me, watch my videos, they want to get mad, but why are you getting mad at me for speaking the truth? That's illogical. That means you have some kind of a personal problem and you want to make it my problem. Don't do that. That's rude. Look within and try to be coherent. It's really simple. Is it really that too much to ask? And if you want to live a lie by, for example, violating the law of non-contradiction, which from what I've seen, all atheists do. Now, I haven't heard them all, but every single one of them, when I hear them speak and debate, they always, without fail, violate this law. And I know modern philosophy wants to say that the law of non-contradiction, which would be something like, or a violation thereof would be something like, saying something like, morality is and isn't subjective. They all do this. Both of them can't be true at the same time, right? Morality cannot be and not be subjective at the same time. This is this postmodernist thought that states that there is no truth, sneaking into and polluting philosophy in general, and it's incoherent in and of itself, because to say that truth doesn't exist, you just made a truth statement. You think you stated something that is true, while at the same time saying that truth doesn't exist. You violate the law of non-contradiction. You're incoherent. Everything else you say after that could be easily dismissed because your foundation is a lie. It's illogical. You can't build logic from the lack thereof. It's really that simple. That's what logic is. You start with simple truths and you build from there. So again, you can't say truth doesn't exist, because that in and of itself is making a truth statement. So, all the atheists that I've heard speak, Dawkins, Harris, Dillahunty, I'm not that familiar with all the atheist philosophers out there, because I'm not that interested in this, okay? That's why I haven't had any interest in debating atheists, and quite frankly, you know, I'm gonna win the debate within the first 10 seconds, 30 seconds, maybe 3-4 minutes, showing how incoherent they are, and they're not gonna get it. So what's the point of debating somebody who lives a lie and doesn't know what logic is? So anyway, all these atheist philosophers I've mentioned, they all say that morality is subjective, and yet they push an objective moral standard. They're saying morality is and isn't subjective at the same time. That's insanity. That's batshit crazy. You cannot do that and be considered a credible philosopher. I mean, unfortunately, in today's day and age where nobody's logical, because people don't know what logic is, they get a pass. But if you think that morality is and isn't subjective at the same time, you're incoherent. Like, that's not my fault. Don't get mad at me for pointing out truths about these atheists. Like, this, what are you getting mad at me for? For telling you the truth? That means you have no self-respect. All of them, from what I heard, seem to believe that morality is based on well-being. And that could be easily disproved. Because if you have a society that supports human sacrifice, and people knowingly and willingly allow themselves to be sacrificed because they believe they're gonna live, they're gonna go to heaven, something like that. They're promised a great afterlife, and their families are gonna gain an immense amount of respect in that society and honor. It just makes everybody happy, right? This human sacrifice is part of this society, and it makes everybody happy. And since well-being is subjective, you cannot sit there and say that their well-being is being violated when they're doing this willingly and happily, and everybody agrees, and it brings cohesion to their society, right? It makes their society, hypothetical example, but, let's suppose the society exists. Well, according to this theory of well-being, that's a moral society. And we all know it isn't. Because if you really think about morality long enough, and you question these presupposed notions that you have, and you question your own beliefs, and you really do a good job at it, you'll realize that morality is objective. You might not be able to explain why, but you'll realize that morality is objective because nothing else makes sense. I've done this. I've investigated. I've questioned myself. I was really anti-religion, and I'm still not any fan of religion. I was 9 years old. Our mother would send us to our Roman Catholic congregation, and at 9 years old I noticed the priest's hypocrisy. He, from the pulpit, was teaching how men should be faithful to their wives, while at the same time flirting with all the young girls, and there were all these rumors swirling around that, he was banging them in the off-season. So I saw that, I realized the hypocrisy of the church, and I decided I wanted no part of it at 9 years old. And I've been this way since, and I admit that even though a lot of atheists completely misrepresent religion, like they don't know anything about these religions that they talk about, they completely misrepresent them. Sometimes they make very salient and seemingly indefensible points about religious ideology. Now, religious scholars say that these questions that these atheists are asking are schoolboy questions that have been answered that have been asked and answered thousands of years ago already, which again exposes how little atheists actually know about religion and how little they know about the history of philosophy. But that's beside the point. I don't know what these arguments are, and I'm not interested in it, in any of that stuff. But whenever I've heard atheists, not whenever, but usually a lot of the times when they make these schoolboy accusations and ask these schoolboy questions, they get creamed. Just on a logical level, they get absolutely creamed. But you have to understand what logic is to understand that. So, this hypothetical society, like in no way, shape, or form would any of us agree that that's moral. And if you do, you got some serious issues if you think sacrificing people is morally correct. But if you base your morality on well-being, and well-being is subjective and up to that person, well, you have to believe that. And that's just insane. But I'm going to give you a more credible example. Because you may say, well, that's just impossible scenario, blah, blah, blah. But that's the point of these hypotheticals, and it's not an impossible scenario. It is extreme, but not impossible. But I'll give you a simpler one. Let's say you have a society of very rich people and very poor people. And once in a while, the poor people will steal something from the rich people. But the rich people are so rich, they hardly even notice stuff goes missing. It doesn't affect them in any way, shape, or form. They just kind of sneeze at it and they just chalk it up to, stuff getting lost. And even if they realize it was stolen, it doesn't affect their well-being in any way, shape, or form because they're so damn rich. It just doesn't affect them in any way. And essentially, they're okay with that, right? Everybody's well-being is preserved. It's constant. Like, even though there's theft in that society, everybody's well-being stays the same. Does that make theft moral? Of course not. And if you say it does, you're an immoral person. And you can't say a little bit of theft is okay, and, well, a lot of theft is not. That's completely incoherent and wishy-washy and just wrong. Because either theft is or isn't wrong. You can't say theft is and isn't wrong at the same time. We've already covered that. So, to say that morality is based in well-being, it just isn't true. See how easy it was to defeat that idea? But this is what atheists believe. They have to find some kind of alternate solution because they've decided that God doesn't exist. And even atheistic so-called philosophers in years past who didn't believe in God or that God existed posited that you cannot be coherent without assuming some kind of higher power. That's what they said. I forget who they were exactly. Socrates might have been one of them. Even they stated that you cannot have a coherent, justifiable moral system without some kind of authority handing it down to you. They recognize this, that it doesn't make any sense. And I just demonstrated to you how basing morality on well-being doesn't work. It's not a bad idea necessarily, and it works in a lot of instances, and it sounds good, and it makes atheists look like morally correct people, and They are. But their justification for morality is wrong. When you put it under scrutiny, it falls apart. What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do about that? Just because this reality, this fact, makes you butthurt, that has nothing to do with me. That is a personal problem. Now, if you think you have a logical argument against what I said, present it. But unfortunately, like this one last atheist who got really upset because I pointed out the incoherence of atheism, I mean, he's so ideologically possessed by his faith in atheism, and I'll get to that in a second, that he started saying that in reality, my debate opponent actually did well in the debate. He did well by saying that morals are and aren't subjective. That's doing well in a debate, right? Being completely incoherent. He tried to pass this idea that dead humans aren't humans, okay? Batshit crazy, completely illogical, but that's doing well in the debate. He admitted his vegan diet causes disease, tacitly, but he admitted it. Look, if, let's say, the carnivore diet causes vitamin C deficiency, it causes scurvy, which is a disease, right? Vitamin C deficiency is a disease. Well, by taking vitamin B12 supplements, and you need to take a lot more than that, but simply by admitting to taking B12 supplements, he admitted that his vegan diet is deficient in B12 and causes disease. Really simple. So while he says his diet causes disease, he also says that it's the healthiest diet on the planet. Right? That's batshit crazy. That's not doing well in the debate. That's batshit crazy. What else did he say? All right. He couldn't defend, to save his life, this idea of sentience, because if human moral and animal moral value is based on sentience, it's okay to eat dead humans, of course, right? And he tried to basically say that it is okay because they're no longer human, right? Which is, again, batshit crazy and completely immoral and unethical, right? While at the same time acting like he's an ethical person. Moreover, if sentience is why we should respect life, all I have to do is take away the sentience, and then I could kill and eat that animal. I just have to stun it. It's no longer sentient. It's fair game, right? You're saying sentience gives power or gives us a reason to respect life, even though sentience cannot exist without life in the first place, which doesn't make any sense. That in and of itself is incoherent. But if you're saying that sentience protects the animal's life, well, what protects the sentience? You can't say sentience because that's circular reasoning, which allows me to take away the sentience. So this idea that sentience is what gives animals the right to life and liberty, if you will, is completely absurd, and it actually allows for animal consumption. But that's just logic, right? But this atheist who thinks he's so uber logical and amazing, goat kefir, he believes all these things are legit and logical, right? And that's batshit crazy. So when I said that atheism, so far as I can tell, is incoherent, and it makes perfect bedfellows with veganism because it's equally as incoherent as atheism, well, you just proved it. So the reason why you're getting mad is because you live a lie, you're incoherent, and you don't have any self-respect to question your presuppositions and beliefs and see if they withstand the logical test, the test of logic. They don't. But you're not willing to do that. You just want to attack people who say they believe in a higher power. And again, I'm very skeptical of religion. I don't adhere to any religions out there. I see the problems with some of the same problems with religion that atheists do, right? So we agree there. But you know, I have my own belief system, and I'm honest and explicit about it. I say it's a belief, okay? I don't have to prove anything to you. This is my belief. Your worldview is ultimately based on belief. I will prove this in a second. Atheist. But you're telling me that mine can't be. So you're completely hypocritical and disrespectful. Every worldview is ultimately going to be based on belief. Oh, and another example of incoherence of Richard Dawkins, this amazing and smart and intelligent, and I'm not saying he isn't, Oxford professor. He stated in a debate that nothing is very easy to define. So then when they asked him to define nothing, his words were verbatim, nothing is something. That's batshit crazy. How can someone so educated, so intelligent, say such asinine things? How? Because he's living a lie. And if you tell so many lies, eventually you lose track of all these lies and you start just saying stupider and stupider things. It's just what happens with liars. There's no way a person that intelligent cannot comprehend that nothing is not something. And the most hypocritical and ridiculous thing about that is that he ridicules Christians for saying that God said, let there be light, and there was light. And yet he himself thinks he can say nothing is something, and all of a sudden nothing will become something, right? Which is the same thing. Yeah, completely hypocritical, living a lie, incoherent. How is nothing something? It isn't. It just isn't. But this is what your atheistic guru says. Well, what, I can't point it out as batshit crazy? Because it is. Anyway, atheists believe that their worldview is based in fact, science, even though the overwhelming majority of them are not scientists and don't understand anything about, you know, advanced science at all. I mean, wow. Just wow. So, what they do is they rely on somebody else's scientific knowledge. They assume that these scientists are honest. They assume that the data is bulletproof. They've never seen the data. They've never investigated it. They don't even have the knowledge to be able to do that in the first place, right? They just believe. They believe. And they say that their worldview is scientific. No, it isn't. You just believe. Even all the scientists that discover these things, various things, they all have to rely on the honesty and expertise and correctness of other scientists. They have to believe that all these other scientists haven't deceived them. So even if you understand all these processes that you use to describe, let's say, the genesis of the world, you still have to rely on the field, and you have to believe the field is honest and true. You can't do this by yourself, right? So even the smartest of scientists, because they don't have, there's not enough time in the world, and their brains aren't smart enough to be able to comprehend everything, they still ultimately rely on belief to form their worldview. Now, a lot of the things that atheists believe, like evolution, that's an extremely controversial topic in the scientific field. Macroevolution. A lot of scientists, and not all of them are religious, they completely reject revolution. Now they're always being silenced, and it's not okay for them to question evolution because, you know, they won't get any funding and they're just going to be pushed out of the field, you know. So there are a lot of dishonest, very sinister, if you will, pressures in science that disallow people from seeking the truth, right? Science is very dishonest. So what are you talking about? Like, this is, you know, I'm not saying that science hasn't exposed a lot of truths about the natural world. It sure has. But we know that there have been tons of scientific frauds, and you have to question everything. And again, the theory of evolution is not a settled matter. It's just a theory. It's not even a scientific theory. It's just a theory that's ridiculed by a lot of scientists. They poke major holes in it, like, and there's actually evidence in the fossil record of a creator. There's more evidence in the fossil record for a creator than this hokey pokey evolution that has never been, you know, replicated in real life. I mean, we've been breeding dogs for millennia and they're all still dogs. We've had these breeds apart for thousands of years. They look completely different. They don't even look like the same species. Their skull shape is completely different, you know, like in the fossil record when it comes to humans. They're, you know, they're much, much bigger than other dogs. They have completely different skin and fur color, you know. Their teeth are different, their jaws are different. There are so many differences that if this was in the fossil record, you would look at that and say, oh, different species, right? That's what they do. But they're all still dogs. They're still all the same species. You don't have any evidence for this speciation, but everyone believes it, you know. Even if the... Oh, and if I didn't mention, the evidence for a creator is, well, all of the fossil record, because there are no links from this life form to another life form. I mean, they find like a femur bone or something and they reconstruct a whole ancient animal out of that. They've decided that there was a whole different species of humanoid, like the Denisovian, based on 2 teeth, a toe bone the size of a pea, and a finger bone the size of a fava bean. Based on that, they decided that this Denisovian species existed and all over the place, right? When it comes to Lucy, for example, Australopithecus afarensis, I'm gonna have to hurry up. I'm running out of storage on my phone. When it comes to Lucy, you know, they found some of the bones way the hell over there. Some of the bones way the hell over there. Some of the bones were at a much deeper depth in the ground, and other bones, they were scattered basically. I don't remember what it is, but within like a few miles. And they're saying that that was one person, right? And you clowns believe that. Or you haven't investigated the truth in order to be able to question it, right? And I keep forgetting if I mention it. The Cambrian explosion, right? Where all these life forms appear out of nowhere and they don't have any... We can't find any ancestors, any simpler life forms from which they would have evolved in the fossil record, anywhere in the fossil record. Well, that basically destroys this whole idea of evolution and actually gives credence to the belief in a creator, because if all these animals appear out of nowhere, all these complex life forms in the fossil record, well, something must have created them, right? But if you say this, and if you want to teach creationism, for which there is scientific evidence actually, arguably better than this hokey-pokey idea of evolution, atheists just, they go batshit crazy and they want to attack you because, you know, religion has contributed to many murders, as if all this atheistic communism in USSR, China, didn't actually do that as well, or the French Revolution led by atheists, you know, as if that didn't ever happen in history. I mean, the hypocrisy is just, come on. Atheists are so dishonest. They live a lie. Get mad if you want. Everything I said is true. You could get mad, but you're getting mad at the fact that you're living a lie. So, you know, and then there's this whole idea that out of inorganic matter, all of a sudden organic matter occurred in like a toxic soup with some lightning and blah blah blah, right? They've described this process so eloquently, and it's so true, right, supposedly. But then when it came time to showing that in the lab, right, I mean, you know what the conditions were. So with today's technology, oh my God, you should be able to show this in the lab. They failed miserably, right? So that's not even a scientific theory, because it was put to the test and it failed miserably, it fell flat on its face. But people believe that you could create something alive from something that's dead, which is, well, quite frankly, batshit crazy. But you believe this stuff, even though it cannot be proven. It actually has been disproven by science and scientific experiments, but you go on believing this. You go on believing in the Big Bang, that all this wonderful stuff, our entire universe, can be created out of nothing, when you can't even conceptualize. Well, maybe you could conceptualize, but you can't visualize what nothing would be, what that is. It's just, as much as you protest, none of that really matters. You're just emotional and dishonest. Your worldview ultimately rests in belief, dear atheist. It does. And a lot of the things that you proclaim to be true are completely absurd and laughable, and been disproved by science. But you sit there and act as if you had some kind of higher intellectual ground, as if you were some kind of a scientist, when you don't have the first clue about what logic is, and you don't know anything about science. So I know this video is long, but it had to be said. I don't have a problem with atheists fundamentally, but I expect people to be coherent and tell the truth. And that's just what I do. And if that makes you mad,